All right, welcome back to the best damn training channel on YouTube. Today is Wednesday. We're doing an upper body day for the new Unit 3.0 program, which will be launching next week on my Train Heroic subscription plan. Before we get into today's session, a little plug about the Train Heroic subscription program is it's gonna be $29 a month. You're gonna get 6 days of training every single week for every single month that you are subscribed to the program. It follows along with what you see here on YouTube. This follows with my own training. Everything that I'm doing is going to be uploaded to the app so you guys can follow that on a monthly basis. It's gonna be $29 a month, which I feel like is a very competitive price because you're gonna be getting full programming week to week, the ability to track all your programming. We're gonna have some fun competitions throughout the week where we can measure ourselves against others, create competition within your training, give you guys a little bit more intent and have some fun with specific parts of specific days throughout each of the weeks. You're gonna have access to a chat group, which you can talk to each other. So everyone who is subscribed to the program can chat with each other, share training and everything, but you can also talk with me, ask me questions directly, have access to me. I can answer questions and we can just kind of have a community where we can shoot the shit, we can talk about training, whatever it might be is gonna be in that training chat group. So there's a lot of fun things coming along with this program. One of the things I'm most excited for is the fact that the last 12 weeks on the Summer of Speed program, I've been neglecting the upper body work. Today, we're bringing it back in. We're gonna be increasing the intensity, increasing the volume, increasing the intent on all the upper body stuff because I'm gonna try to build up to as heavy of a bench press as I can. So 1 rep max type stuff, but we're also gonna be doing reps tests. So we're gonna be doing for 225 bench press reps for the men, probably like 165-ish for the women. And then there's also gonna be scalable versions where if you can't hit 225 for reps, then you're gonna be doing like 55 to 60% of your 1 rep max for reps, so you can still have some sort of competitive drive to be able to see some improvement on something like that. But today we're doing pin press is the first thing. I'm gonna be doing like a top set of 5, around a 7 RPE, then we're gonna take some weight off and we're gonna do some working sets after that. And one thing I wanna talk about today is a little bit of a story that has been almost 10 years in the making right now. And I wanna put this out on YouTube because I'm hoping this will spread a little bit of awareness and maybe somebody somewhere can see something, have a connection and be able to create a reunion of something that I've been searching for almost 10 years. Now, for those that don't know, back in 2013, I was pretty much full-blown into CrossFit. And as a competitive person, anytime I go into something and thinking about wanting to compete, I go all in. So I was, from 2013 to about 2016, all I wanted to do was compete in CrossFit, go to the CrossFit Games, and do my best. Now, I'm also very realistic in my abilities as an athlete. I feel like that's been one of the benefits that I've had over the course of my career is I can set really big goals, but they're realistic and within reach, which helps drive me towards those goals, I feel like, more adequately than if I were to just become, let's say I wanted to become an individual CrossFit Games champion. I never thought that was gonna be me. So in my CrossFit career, I went the team route because individually, I felt like I was a strong individual competitor, but I had glaring weaknesses. Like I wasn't an endurance guy. I wasn't gonna be the guy who was gonna win a 20-minute workout, a 30-minute workout, or whatever it might be. But I had the ability to compete in those events on a team and do well as an individual within a group. So I went team in 2016. At that time, I was living in Sweden. So my CrossFit career ended up being a team thing, and being a guy who enjoyed being a team player versus an individual, there became a sport that sort of branched off from CrossFit called Grid. And Grid was like a professional league where the athletes got paid for being on a team within that league, but it was a team aspect that rewarded specialization. So myself, being someone who specialized more in the strength, power, explosive type stuff, I became like a barbell specialist and I got signed to the Phoenix Rise in 2015. Now that first year was a fun year. Grid in and of itself was a fun sport to do, and the easiest way to describe it was a nuanced version of CrossFit but it wasn't CrossFit because we had movements that we did in grid that we didn't do in CrossFit. It was more for show. It was supposed to be a spectacle, like visually appealing and more of like a, oh my God, I can't believe people can do this type of stuff. And 2015 was my rookie year. We made it to the championship match and ended up losing in the championship match. And from that position of losing, I felt that I could be a better teammate by being a more well-rounded athlete. So what I did was I spent pretty much the entirety of that 2015 year working on all of my weaknesses, trying to build my endurance base, my well-roundedness as an athlete. And in doing so, I became a really good CrossFit team as well, which allowed me to compete in the CrossFit Games in 2016. We ended up winning the European region, went to the CrossFit Games, got 6th place overall at the CrossFit Games. And a lot of that was the fact that I spent a year working on all those weaknesses, trying to become a more well-rounded athlete while not losing my home run hit ability, which means like if it came up to the point where we're gonna do a heavy lift or something explosive or a workout that you needed to get done in like 3, 2, 1 minutes or whatever it might be, like those were still my home run hitters and I could still win those events. And then doing so, competing well at the CrossFit Games, placing high, being a more well-rounded athlete, going into the 2016 season of grid, I had the ability to be more of a utility person. Like I could do a little bit of everything while still having my home run hit ability in my specialty. That season, substantially better than the season before. Now, the season before we made it to the championship match and then we lost, but the season after was like we dominated all of the matches. It wasn't really that close for a lot of them. We made it to the championship match. We ended up winning the championship that year. And I ended up receiving the honor of getting MVP of the league for that season. So not only did we win the championship, but I got the MVP. Now, those who have been following this channel or been following me on Instagram know exactly where this story is leading. But for those that don't, the MVP trophy was a gold Eleiko dumbbell. It was a 25-pound dumbbell. It was gold plated. It had like end caps on it that had the grid logo that said 2016 grid MVP on it, everything like that. And that was my trophy for winning. Now, after winning that trophy, I went up to the commissioner of the league and was like, look, is there a way that I can get this mailed to me? Because I can't take this giant Pelican case with a 25-pound dumbbell and add that to my suitcase. Like, there's no chance I'm gonna be able to fly with this right now. So they were like, yeah, no problem. They took the trophy from me. They said they were gonna mail it to me. I gave them my address, and then 3 months went by, 6 months went by. All of a sudden, the league went bankrupt, and everything dissolved from there. There was no more league. There was no more commissioner. There were no more employees of this league, and subsequently, there was no MVP trophy to be found. So I've been searching for this MVP trophy for the better part of a decade now. And by posting about this periodically throughout each year, like literally over the last 10 years, I've posted at least 2-3 times a year about this MVP trophy, saying like, I want my trophy back. And it's become kind of a thing where if I post about the trophy, people will DM me like hoping that I'll find this trophy one day. And I just recently, within the last 6 months, got a hold of the previous owner of the league. So the person who actually funded the league, not the commissioner, but the owner. And he has a storage unit that is in California, in which he believes the trophy might be in, because he has some old grid memorabilia in this storage unit. So he went, looked into the storage unit, told me he has found this trophy that he saw, he had eyes on, gold dumbbell trophy. It's in his storage unit. But since then, which was probably about 4 months ago now, I haven't heard a word from him, and I haven't gotten a response from him. Every time I've reached out to try to confirm that he has the trophy and figure out a way that I can get my hands back on this trophy. So now I'm trying to figure out, did he actually have the trophy? Or was he just trying to say something in order to kind of like put a little bit of a leash on me? Because I came at him hard. I was like, yo, where's my trophy at? It's been 10 years. I've been trying to find this. Like, I'm told you're the guy that might know where it's at. You were the one that funded this. If you don't have the trophy, then how can we replace the trophy? So on and so forth. Ironically enough, after that situation happened, I went down to the Coach 'em Up conference in Austin, Texas. And this would have been probably in June, if I remember correctly. And I happened to meet one of the heads of Eleiko for Eleiko US, who is a guy from Sweden that's living in Austin, because Austin has a headquarters for the US for Eleiko. And he somehow has known about this predicament that I'm in and trying to find this MVP trophy. And he told me that he's going to help look for this trophy as well. If he can't find out where this trophy is at, then he's going to look into the possibility of Eleiko replacing that trophy, since the original would be lost. That was a bit of a sloppy set. I think that's gonna be my top set. We're at 140. Have a little break in the story real quick. The plan now is we're gonna drop 15%, and we're gonna do sets of 5 to 6 on this. The head of Eleiko for Austin, or the head of Eleiko for the United States, has told me that he's gonna look into getting me a replacement for this trophy. Since the Coach 'em Up conference, I've also heard nothing in follow-up when it comes to finding this trophy and trying to figure out where it's at, how we can get it replaced, or anything like that. And the thing about me is I have, maybe it's a downfall, but I have too much pride and I'm way too stubborn to just let this go. It's a trophy that I earned. It's a dope ass trophy too. Like, who gets gold plated dumbbells? Nobody, right? This is like a one of one. First year in the grid league was 2014. I wasn't a part of it, and I don't think the MVP got a gold-plated dumbbell. Year 2 was 2015, which was my rookie year, and I think the MVP got a gold-plated dumbbell that year, but I'm not 100% sure. I think, if I remember correctly, they did, but there's a possibility that they got like a smaller version of the championship trophy or whatever it was. But definitely my year, it was a gold-plated dumbbell. So this is a one of one, at most a one of two item that Eleiko has ever created. And like I said, I'm too proud and I'm too stubborn to just let this slide, which is part of the reason why I'm making today's video, because I want this video to be on the timeline of things that I'm doing to try to find this trophy, to track it down, to get it. And if you see this video and you happen to know anybody who might know somebody, or like whatever it might be, the chances of that happening are probably like 1% chance that somebody who watches this video can find this trophy, or know somebody that can find it, or know somebody at Eleiko that can find it, like whatever it might be. This is just another attempt of me going like, hey, give me back my trophy. It is something I earned, it is something I want, and whenever I get this trophy, it's not if, because I will find this trophy at some point in time. I don't care if I'm 60 years old and I'm still looking for this thing. I will find it. I am going to create a fucking altar and put this thing in my living room as my crowning achievement. Just for the fact, like, not that I consider the grid to be my crowning achievement in my athletic career. I've done a lot more cooler things in my opinion, but the work that it took to get this thing back into my hands is going to be something I think is going to be a special moment. And I know this seems very foolish because it was like a very nuanced professional league that meant really nothing to anybody other than the people that were competing in it. But to me, it was something that's like, I want this one of one. I want this one of two type trophy that will never ever be created again probably, and has never been created again since. So, So that's a bit of a story of my past in competitive sports, while also my present in competitive sport, because a lot of what we do in these upper body days, not only are you going to be trying to build up a 1 rep max on the bench press, but also try to get as many reps as we can at that 225, which is an Apex competition event. And Apex will be the next thing that I compete in. I don't know when I'm going to compete in it. The first Apex Open happens to be on October 26th, which is my birthday. And I already have plans where I have friends coming from the US flying over to Iceland to spend my birthday with me. So there's no chance that I can make it to that event, which sucks because I would love to be there, especially for it being the very first Apex Open. It would have been on my 40th birthday, which would have been really cool to go compete and do something like that. But the timeline didn't work out. So we're gonna wait for another Apex Open to pop up so we can go and compete in that, which this program that I'm on is gonna be somewhere around 12, maybe 16 weeks. This is really the first program that I've written out where I didn't have a specific end date in mind. What I have is kind of like the first 4 weeks of training kind of built up, and then I'm progressing off of that. And then we'll progress off that again. If I feel like there's still more room to build off of that, then we'll progress again. I don't expect this being more than a 16-week program, but there's a possibility that it could be, just depending on where we're at. And then also, as Apex continues to have competitions, if I know that there's a competition on a specific date later on down the road, maybe we revamp some things and change it up so we can go to the Apex event and try to compete as well as we can. But Apex will be the next thing that I compete in for sure. And all of my training, even though this is not an Apex program, all of my training is gonna be in mind of like those specific events, the med ball toss, the 40-yard dash, the broad jump, the vertical jump, all that kind of stuff is gonna be within these programs. In terms of training, that's the foresight that I have when we're looking at training for future competitions. Because I get asked often what I'm going to compete in next, and I've always told them like I had no plans of competing in anything. Then obviously Apex came along, and that's something that I would like to compete in. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Top set was at 140. I took 15% off of that. We're doing 5s and 6s. The last set of there that I did of 6 felt pretty heavy, so this last set might be a 5. And then we're gonna move on to an overhead press. I haven't done overhead presses in a very long time. One of the things that this Unit 3.0 program is gonna have is a focus on overhead strength and specifically working up to like a jerk. So we're gonna try to build up to like a heavy jerk, which if you've never done jerks before, you can do push presses and different overhead variations. You don't have to do the jerk. I will be doing the jerk though, but the overhead variation we're gonna start off is very simple. It's gonna be very stable. We're gonna go from a seated position and just do overhead presses from a seated position. I'll probably just stick right here and use the bench as my overhead press. But we'll start off with like seated strict, and then we'll go into a standing strict variation. Then we got push press variations, push jerk variations from behind the neck, from the front, whatever it might be. Those are gonna be the progressions for that, trying to build up to a heavy overhead press. And that's gonna help with a lot of my other pressing movements that I'm looking at, plus just get overall strong in positions that we've been neglecting for probably 6 months. I haven't done an overhead variation, I would say probably in at least 4 months, maybe 6 months or so, back when I did the unit combine towards the beginning of this year. So I got one more set, 5 to 6 reps on this, and then we're gonna switch on to the overhead press. All right, so as I do this, I'm about to face the opposite direction because I don't wanna have to like try to bring this overhead or whatever, and I have these weird footsteps here on the bench. But my idea when putting together this session was main strength movement being a pin press, so breaking up that eccentric, concentric, shortening up that range of motion a little bit, even though it's fairly close to my chest. I wanted to get that bar down there and work on pressing off of that chest position, because that's generally where I have weak points when it comes to the bench press. And then I'm gonna be going full range of motion, trying to get down to my shoulders and then up overhead as easy as I can with this overhead press. And then later on in the week, I've got a full range of motion bench press variation, and then I've got a more partial range of motion overhead press variation, which I think is going to be a good balance. But I'm trying to be at around like a 7 RPE on this. So I'm starting off with just 40 kilos on the bar, which I think might be a 7 RPE for 6 reps. All right, now, a little bit on the light side. We'll throw 5s on there, and I think that'll be good. Like, I haven't done a lot of overhead variations, so this movement is going to be pretty weak for me. I'm not looking at blowing myself up. This first week, I'm already like a little bit sore from the front squats and the Nordics that I did yesterday. We'll be a little bit more conservative on these upper body movements, especially like I've done pin press in the summer of speed. I did some bench press, but I haven't gone overhead in a long time, so I don't want to overdo this too much. So we'll say, regardless of how this feels, I think this is going to be a good starting number for me. This will be set number 1. Oh yeah, that's a good first set. All right, so let's do this next set here. And I probably should mention, another reason why I'm choosing the overhead press, especially strict variations, because for me, I feel it a lot in the triceps, feel it kind of in the front delt, but that tricep being the main pressor of this overhead is going to be a good complementary to the bench press that I'm trying to build up. So we'll do a lot of volume and a lot of heavy overhead movements over the course of this next 12 to 16 weeks. Try to build that as much as we can, and that should translate to better bench press performance when we're looking at heavy reps on that, or even reps at 225. All right, so we're out in that hallway in which they've been doing construction. We're starting to get some equipment set up in here, which is gonna be cool because we got a new T-bar row variation. They have the turf kind of set up on the side over there, even though it's not finished, but we got the mats starting to get laid down. There's going to be more cable machines on this side. So things are progressing. If you guys remember from back probably a few months ago when I showed you guys the plan for what this hallway section is going to be. So the mess is like all the boxes for the new equipment that's been showing up, so disregard all that. So I've set up a janky row variation that's going to allow me to kind of load this up. I don't know why I have my straps on. I don't need these. But what I have is kind of this close grip row attachment, and I'm going to be using just one hand at a time because I really like the feel of this attachment here. I'm going to use this as kind of my counterbalance and then set it up similar to like a dumbbell row. And there you have it. So not the best setup, but for what I have, it works really well. And I like the weight on that, so we're gonna keep it there today. So 3 sets of 8-ish reps on this. And then I'm probably gonna reset this so I can do some sort of an overhead pulling variation. Originally planned to do chin-ups, but we don't have a chin-up bar set up yet. So I'm gonna have to wait till that gets done. So we'll probably lower this down, sit down on the ground, use this as an anchor point, and do some sort of overhead grip. Probably use the same attachment really and just do both arms to pull down towards ourselves a little bit. I feel like this is a good spot to end today's video. So we got some rows to do, overhead pulling to do, and then that's gonna be it for today. One more plug before we go though. PED, Performance Enhancing Drip, is a brand that Tim Riley and myself came out with. If you wanna get a shirt like this is our first design. It's the inaugural PED design. We've got some cool things planned. There will be a link down below. You can click on, buy the shirt. I think the shirt's like 29 bucks, 30 bucks, something like that, which is a pretty damn good price for the quality shirt that you get. So if you wanna help support us, buy a shirt. Otherwise, I appreciate you for watching. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.